My name's Shawn Beaver, and I'm going to be talking to you about interpersonal communication and why I feel that it's vital to the church today. One of the first things that we're given as Christians is the Great Commission in Matthew 28, where it tells us to go to all the world and preach the gospel. Communicate the gospel and get the message out, and that's what we've got to do. And it's a challenge, and there's different ways, different things that we face in trying to get that message out. Interpersonal communication is a two-way communication where it requires two people engaging in conversation, listening, and giving feedback to one another. So it's not just one person communicating, it's two people that are communicating or more back and forth. In Marcy Glass's article that I read, she talked about why there's a decline in church participation. She touches on the different things that churches are doing, like changing their music style, changing their marketing plans, changing the way the pastor dresses, things like that, and the different challenges that they face as far as the things that people are doing. Instead of going to church, they're going to the coffee shops, going mountain biking, doing their hobbies and things, or they just want to sleep in, or they got something going on with the kids, and in some ways they're just not interested. It says they want to do whatever it is that they want to do, but whatever that is, it doesn't seem to be setting in worship. Why is there a decline in church attendance and the communication? Is some people people are working too much, or they find it hard to connect at the churches that they're attending, or they can't find their place in the congregation. Different worship styles, teaching styles, and preaching styles, all those different things. In some cases, they're just not interested, or they've got other things to do. Let's take it further. A lot of times when people come into the church, they come in, there's not a whole lot of interpersonal communication. They come in and they hear the pastor standing up there and he's giving the message, and there's not a lot of feedback. There's not a two-way stream of communication going on. There's not any listening. There's no feedback, or not a lot of audience participation. So what are some things that we must do as Christians? It tells us in 1 Peter chapter 4 that judgment begins at the house of the Lord. So we've got to look at ourselves and start looking inward at what things that we can do to improve the communication, the streamline of communication between us and the people that don't attend church. In John Maxwell's book, Winning People, he gives an example of how he had went into a hotel and he was looking for a drink machine. And he goes in and he's looking for the drink machine. He can't find the drink machine, but when he goes through on his way out of the office, he looks and there's a life-size mirror there, and on that mirror there's a note, and it says, take a good look at yourself. This is what the customer sees. And that's what we've got to do as Christians. We've got to start to look at ourselves. What are some things that we can do ourselves to be able to make a difference and look in the mirror? He also gives an example, an article of an archbishop, and how that on his crypt in Westminster Abbey there was a transcript on there, and it talks about how he wanted to change, this bishop wanted to change the world, he wanted to change his country, he wanted to change his family, he wanted to change his friends. But later on, as he got older in life, he learned and discovered that if he'd have just changed himself first, that then he would have been able to affect his family, his friends, then his country, and maybe would have been able to change the whole world. Don't be self-centered. That's another thing that I want to touch on. In Dale Carnegie's book, he talks about how people are attracted to people who care about things that interest them. Not just thinking about themselves, but what interests you. When you come into church, what interests you? To be able to find your niche. Most people on most days forget the other side of the human experience or equation, and that's everyone else. So looking outside of ourselves and looking at other people. We must relate to other people. We got to spend time relating. In Dale Carnegie's book, he also talks about, the things that we need to do to be able to relate to other people is spend time relating, interacting to people, be approachable to people, be able to listen to people, be sincere and connect with other people, and be infectious. Listen to other people and their needs, and being able to know what they're going through, the challenges that they're facing when they come through the doors. We got to be transparent and approachable. One of the examples that Dale Carnegie had in his book was where he talked about NASCAR and how NASCAR is different from the other sports, and how they're so approachable. Even on the biggest race of the year, Daytona 500, the crowd can go down there and meet the drivers, take pictures with them, get their autographs, and be right there with them, as opposed to other sports where they're not as accessible. You know, they got to be accessible to the people and approachable and transparent and real. And that's what we got to be as the church. Is we got to be transparent and real to the people, to where they're, you know, they see that we're just like them. You know, they see that, you know, we're not all that different, but we're striving and we're trying to do things and that we care about other people. What do we do if they won't come to us? Well, we have to take it to them, and we go to them. We take the message to them. You know, if they're not coming to church because you know, everything else that's going on in life, the time, the work schedules, and all those things, then we've got to be able to get the message out to them. And Luke chapter 14, verse 23, he talks about how we've got to go to the highways and the hedges and to compel them to come in to the church. And that's what, you know, we've got to do as a church, is be able to compel them to come in and be transparent and be communication on an interpersonal level with them. I'd like to thank you for coming out and listening to this speech, and I hope that it made you think about things.